it going? My name is Carrie. I'm the Training and Enrichment Coordinator here at the Virginia Living Museum, and we are at the Red Wolf exhibit out here in the rain today. It is a little bit rainy. As you can see a little bit of the footage beforehand, and we actually have one of our wolves. We have one red wolf here at the Virginia Living Museum. It is a 12-year-old male, and right now he's a hunkered down kid up in the building up there. That's pretty natural for wolves. They actually will hunker down in the rain and not always be out and about, although the rain doesn't bother them at all either. So he'll make an appearance probably in a little while. But you can see his exhibit. We do have a nice natural exhibit out there for him. And there's some treats scattered around for him to come out and find whenever he decides he wants to come out. But I'll tell you a little bit about the red wolves in general. Red wolves are actually a canine native to the southeastern parts of the United States. And they are native only to the southeastern parts of the United States, and they are highly endangered. In fact, they're the most endangered canine pretty much on the planet. So we actually here at the Virginia Living Museum participate in the species survival plan, and that is something that was formed by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums in cooperation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And it's a program that basically tries to help conserve and protect and help repopulate animals in the wild. We got a question?
Yes, Danielle would like to know if you plan on getting a female.
We are not going to get a female at this point. The male that we have is 12 years old, so he is a retired individual. And so we are serving as a home for the retired animals right at this point. So he's kind of just living up his golden years. He's doing quite well by himself. And we make sure that we do lots of things to keep his mind engaged with enrichment and fun things out in the exhibit. Got another question?
Does he get lonely?
He actually doesn't seem to get lonely. He was raised here. He was actually born here in 2007. And he had siblings, his parents. The mother actually went to another facility based on what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service deemed appropriate for the species. And so he stayed here with his brother and his father. And so he actually grew up with them and did really well after the passing of those individuals. He's pretty engaged with the environment that he lives in, and like I said, we do kind of put some enrichment out for him. So he gets lots of toys, lots of fun things, toys like logs and bones and things that would be natural in the environment for a wolf. Another question?
Yeah, Bella, age 8, wants to know if red wolves are friendly with other red wolves.
That depends. If they are within the pack, they are definitely friendly. They're very social animals, and whenever they get separated, if they're hunting, they may come back together and get very excited and do lots of greetings and vocalizations. But if it's a wolf that's outside of their own pack, they can be a little territorial. So they are territorial animals. They don't want other animals that aren't within their pack in the area.
What kind of food do you give them?
We give them basically stuff that they would get in the wild. So we try to replicate the natural diet. In the wild, red wolves eat animals like deer and rabbit and things like that. But here at the museum, we do give them a raw meat diet. And then we give them various assorted treats like rodents and things like that. So it looks like the blackbird out there is gonna sneak some of that meat that's sitting on the ground. But we do have an appearance coming through that door up there. If you can see a little head popping out, that is our red wolf puffin. So he probably will come out once he realizes there's food out here and the rain isn't so heavy. Again, he doesn't seem to mind the rain too often, but every once in a while they'll kind of hunker down. That is a natural thing for the wolves to do. Question?
Yeah, well, we had someone just joining, so you already answered that. Is he hiding somewhere? And as you can see, he's kind of poking out of his den, thinking about coming out for some treats hidden around the exhibit.
So this is our red wolf. Again, the red wolves are our most endangered canine in North America and pretty much in the world. They're highly endangered. These guys actually, at one point, they're native to only the southeastern parts of the United States. At one point, back in 1980, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service actually captured the last 14 genetically pure wild red wolves and put them into a program, into a captive program for breeding purposes. And we are participating in the SSP, which is the Species Survival Plan. Again, that is something created with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to try to keep special species that are endangered or threatened in protection and repopulated. Got another question?
We have a few. Aurora, age 5, wants to know how fast do red wolves run?
Red wolves can actually run for about short bursts when they're in pursuit of prey at about 35 to 37 miles per hour. But typically they're gonna just kind of make it at about 5 miles per hour tracking along. So they don't run very often for long periods of time.
Elise, age 8, wants to know, do they have a fear of water?
They do not. They actually are great swimmers, and they will stand in the water and drink, and also urinate in the water when they're standing in it. So they have no problem getting in the water. They just don't always like the rain pelting on them sometimes, but actually wild wolves are pretty used to that. Our wolf here, he does seem to be out and about during the rain a lot of times, but today he's just kind of hunkering down.
Would he eat the blackbird if he finds it with his food?
There's every possibility that he might grab that blackbird if he wanted it. We have had both blackbirds, cardinals, and also vultures out here, and sometimes he goes after them and sometimes he doesn't. They have caught some wild birds and snacked on them, but it depends on his mood. If he's hungry, he may go after it. If he's not, and usually he isn't because he gets well fed here at the museum, he may just watch it. Another question?
Yes, Hazel wants to know if they wash themselves or do you guys do it?
We actually do not wash the wolves. They are very clean animals. In fact, they don't have an odor like our domestic species of dogs at home. Wolves actually don't smell because then their prey would detect them, but they keep themselves very well groomed. They clean off pretty well. Their fur, which has 2 coats, they have a nice thick undercoat that they shed in the spring when it's hot for the summer, and then they have long guard hairs, which are their rainproof coats. Those guard hairs shed dirt pretty easily, so they're pretty clean animals.
Yeah, I guess you just answered another question from Callie, age 5, is do they shed?
They do. They blow their coats in the spring, and it comes out in huge chunks, and so it looks like you can build a whole other wolf with all the tufts of fur laying around. And then in the summer, they actually look pretty skinny, so people think maybe they're underfed or things like that for some of the wolves out there, but that's actually the natural build of a wolf. They have more of a body shape like a greyhound for running very quickly and pushing through any brush along the ground in pursuit of prey. So they're very lean, muscular animals. Got another question?
Yes, Liam, age 6, wants to know, why are they endangered?
That's a good question. These guys are endangered for a couple of different reasons. They actually were hunted by people when the settlers came over and pursued. A lot of times predators like the red wolf are misunderstood and people are afraid of them, so they hunt them. They also may hunt them for fur and pelts. But also another big issue with why they're endangered is habitat loss. Again, they are only native to the southeastern parts of the United States. So as the population grew and took over natural habitat, the red wolves were pushed into a very, very small area now, concentrated in North Carolina, and there's only about 20 individuals left. So that's why the SSP is very important. Got another question?
Do they have a favorite snack?
Red wolves in the wild, probably their favorite snacks are things like the rabbits and the squirrels and deer, things like that. pretty much anything they can get on. But here at the museum, he doesn't seem to have a favorite snack, but he really does like that raw meat that we give him.
Haven, age 4, wants to know what kind of toys do they play with?
In the wild, toys are very natural items, so maybe a tuft of fur from an animal that they killed and ate, and left over the skin and the fur. They even play with the body, so if a red wolf found a mouse, they might play with that for a little while, so that's considered a toy. It sounds kind of gross, but it's fun for the wolves. And they might play with rocks or logs, they play with each other. And so we try to give our wolves here natural items like the logs and bones and things that they can play with as well. We got another question?
Yes, it looks like someone missed. Does he have a name? What's his name?
His name is Huffman.
And then do they breed with coyotes in the wild?
It is possible for red wolves to breed with coyotes, and actually that was one of the things that people initially maybe thought that red wolves were not an actual pure species, but it was deemed and researched and found out that they are an actual species separate from the gray wolf and from the coyote. But coyotes have moved into their habitat a little bit, and so they actually can interbreed.
Hazel wants to know if they howl.
They do howl. Wolves are excellent howlers, all the species of wolves. And these guys actually howl as well. And that is a big, huge form of communication with the wolves. They'll howl to talk to each other. They'll howl over excitement. They'll howl if they get separated after a hunt to try to locate each other. They will howl to ward off other animals like the coyotes or wolves that aren't part of their pack. And Huffman here, he does actually howl whenever we are across from a fire station. So whenever the fire trucks and the ambulance come by, he howls back at those. Another question?
Yeah, what are the predators besides humans?
Some of the predators for red wolves, there aren't too many, but maybe a larger wolf or mountain lion, things like that would have been pretty typical when they were wider spread before human encroachment. When they're young, however, there's a lot of things that might take a red wolf baby or individual, and that could be anything from coyotes, dogs, hawks, anything that can grab a small wolf.
We have a comment. I love wolves. Is there something different about this type of wolf compared to others? And then that coincides with another question from Layla, age 10. Why are they red and not white and gray like other wolves?
Good questions. So the red wolf, there's two species of wolves in North America, the red wolf and the gray wolf, and then there are subspecies of the gray wolf. Red wolves actually, they are called red wolves because they do have a very red color. So it blends into their environment, but they are pretty much typically going to have most of that coloring is going to be reds and browns, a little bit of black, and maybe a tiny hint of white in there, and those variations. With gray wolves are a little bit bigger. Red wolves are on average about 40 to 80 pounds, whereas gray wolves typically are on average about 60 to maybe up to 100 pounds, give or take a little bit. So the gray wolves are larger, and they also come in different colors. So they can be the red colors, browns, grays. They can be all white, they can be all black. So there's a little bit of a difference between the species.
We have a couple people asking how big do they get?
They actually get about 40 to 80 pounds on average, and they're probably, they stand about, I believe it's like 20 some inches at the shoulders, pretty much close to where an adult's knees would be, a little bit higher. Another question?
Can you howl at him and see if he answers back, or would that be teasing him?
I don't think it would be teasing him, but he's gotten so used to people howling at him. He doesn't tend to respond to people. He will howl at the fire truck if it goes by, but he doesn't seem to howl back at us. So he just doesn't seem to participate in that. He's actually just laying down. That spot where he's laying down in the alleyway up there, that's actually one of his favorite spots. He likes to lounge out there all the time. And what he's doing, he's just kind of watching the blackbirds right now. That seems to be about a typical routine for Huffman here at the museum. Another question?
Yes, do we have red or gray wolves in Virginia? I only see coyotes at night sometimes.
We do have coyotes in Virginia for sure. The gray wolves are not native to this, well, they're not in this area any longer. And the red wolves that were native to this area have been moved out. They actually were wiped out from this area due to human population. So we don't actually have any in Virginia, but we do have red wolves in our neighboring state in North Carolina. So Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge is the area where there is a very small population of wild red wolves. And that's about 20 individuals last time they count. So again, they're very, very endangered, and the SSP is a very important thing, along with another program called SAFE, which is Saving Animals from Extinction, and that's also an AZA program. Another question?
Yes, does he get excited like our domestic dogs when you serve his meals?
He can. We've actually seen him get pretty excited when we've come in and put food down. One of the things we like to do is, of course, again, engage his mind. If he didn't have anything to do, he would get bored. So we try to do things with enrichment. So we spread the food around his environment. We'll put it on the logs, we'll hide it in little holes, things like that. So it replicates him having to hunt and forage for food. And he seems to get excited while he watches us do that. And then when we allow him to come back out from the exhibit or the enclosure up there, then he actually comes out and gets excited and looks around for his food.
Bella, age 8, wants to know if red wolves would eat other red wolves.
Pretty much not going to eat each other for the most part. Maybe, actually, I wouldn't even say that. As babies, they're not going to usually take each other. Red wolves love puppies. They're very social animals. So they will adopt animals or wolves that are not part of their own pack. And actually, that is one of the reasons why the SSP is very successful. When an animal that is at a facility, there are facilities that have red wolves in their care, and it's about 260, I believe, in the care of humans across facilities in the North American states. So basically, excuse me, when the wolves are born at a facility, they can be placed out, the puppies can be placed out with surrogate wild parents, and those wild wolves will adopt those puppies even though they're not their own. And so that is one of the reasons why the program works. Is that another question?
Yes, does he climb?
He doesn't climb. Wolves can jump pretty high. They can kind of go at a smaller incline, but they cannot climb straight up. So they're not as adept at climbing like cats are.
Does he wag his tail like my pet dog when you bring him food?
He doesn't do that quite as much as far as wagging his tail, but they will wag their tails at each other. Red wolves are pretty elusive and pretty skittish animals by nature. So they don't get excited about people as much as your domestic dog. Your domestic dog has been raised to live with you at home, and so you guys can communicate better. Dogs will communicate better with humans through body language like that. Wolves pretty much communicate with wolves that way.
All right, guys, so it looks like Huffman is a little indifferent to his treats at this point. And it's getting pretty cold out here, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We really appreciate you coming to join me and Carrie here for our Red Wolf SSP presentation. And thanks for joining us all week long with our 50th anniversary of Earth Week celebration. Join us again tomorrow. We'll be doing another 11 a.m. live stream, and more so all week for our Earth Day Festival celebration. So thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye.